First off, I'll be buying the latest version of Moho probably this week. I've been working really hard to buy it for the Bad Apples project, and I think I mentioned this last time that they have an upgrade for $329 if you have the debut version. So that's what I'm going to do. This week there's no Bad Apples, but we're going to talk about something called photogrammetry. And why am I talking about this week? And the reason why is during the 80s and 90s, Vinton Productions made probably I don't know how many hundreds of puppets they made. Probably like a couple of thousand, maybe 3,000 puppets. All of various sizes and shapes and different characters and for different commercials and TV specials as well. Just tons and tons of characters. And so I don't know if you guys all know the story, but so they were taken over by Travis Knight, the son of CEO of Nike shoes, and so there was a whole bunch of drama with politics and everything else that goes with owning a giant studio and going public and having investors and all of that. So in the attic in this particular studio that they had, they basically hoarded all the puppets and put them in there for safekeeping. And so you can see that they've kind of just put them in there. It's really dusty. They've got plastic wrap on them. It's not temperature controlled or humidity controlled. It's basically just thrown together, and this is kind of the state of the way things were, and like the puppets were kind of falling apart. Here's a Mark Twain puppet, as well as I think this dog is from maybe the Easter special. Not really too sure, but so the puppets are in various states of decay, and the heat inside there also is a problem because the oils in the clay will tend to leach out of the clay, and things just kind of look really shiny after a while, and it just the puppets essentially fall apart, right? So you can also see like this book, this old clay book, is very dusty. There's a dog puppet on top. So we've got different heads here. We have what else can we find? We got probably some rigs and props and various boxes, and let's see what else. So here's a Wilshire pig. There's a blue Domino's Pizzanoid back here in the back. There is supposed to be like a chicken of some sort here, which I'm not sure because it's in plastic. We've got various heads sculpted for different projects, and of course tons of California raisin puppets, all again just in plastic wrap, just laying on a table, which is pretty much the worst way to store them, right? I mean, here's one that in the background that's fallen over. Let me just make sure. Okay, so we got this just setup of just everything's just kind of everywhere. We have the Mark Twain balloon. We have, I don't know what this is from here. This is from a TV commercial, I think. Like a first perspective shot of this particular basketball player. His legs are really big. We've got some chairs here. Who knows what's under here? And just boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff, like props and set pieces and puppet parts, and right, it's like a treasure trove of awesomeness. It really is. But the problem is that everything was made from clay, and where these things are now is unknown. I've heard that a lot of this stuff was thrown in a dumpster, which is a huge shame, right? It's just horrible to think that, and yeah, it really makes me sad. So hopefully, before they did throw things away, some of the animators probably took these to their homes, and maybe they got them on a shelf somewhere, that kind of a thing. I'm not really sure, and that's the thing. So I had this idea of using a technology that I learned about from watching how they made a video game, and I think it was Star Wars Battlefront was the name of it. And what they did is they went to different locations with cameras, and they took pictures of the scenery, and also they had access to the Lucasfilm archives. So they had like models and props and costumes and helmets and things like that. And I watched this video on how they did it, and it was really fascinating to look at and see, you know, how they scanned things without using like a digital scanner, but just actual photography, and then imported it into a computer, and from there the computer would digitize the whatever the like rocks and tree bark and whatever else they wanted, and those were used as assets for the video game, and everything looked very much photoreal, and it was also true to life in terms of scale and you know just the dimensionality of it was very accurate. There was no like lens distortion or anything like that. It was all, I guess, like a artificial intelligence program would take it and figure out, you know, how far things were apart in reality. Even if the camera lens was, let's say, a telephoto or a macro lens, it didn't matter. So everything was just dimensionally accurate. So it was really exciting to see that, because I thought, you know, that would be a great way to take puppets like these and digitize them, so that even if the clay that makes up the puppet were to, you know, fall apart, decay, and melt, and you can see here, this is a Noid puppet, which is different, you know, facial expressions for replacements. Like, just think, you know, this is probably 20 years old now, I guess. Maybe even older. Not really sure when this particular commercial was made, but now this here is actually, I believe this is like a resin casting, so this is not, this will last forever. These resin puppets, I'll show the backs, but this is Van Aken clay, and you can see how we have some material inside the ears, which I think is copper, and the copper properties of it are leaching into the clay. The oils within the clay are leaching out, so that everything looks really shiny. You know, the characters probably get kind of hot, melted. Here's another shot of the Noid. So, I mean, it's amazing that these lasted that long, but they're definitely not going to last forever. So, anyways, so I looked into different programs, and I found this one program which is for free, and it's called Meshroom. Oh, all right, my cat's scratching to get out. 1 second, everybody. All right, never fails. He always wants to lead during the show. So, let's see if I can make this smaller. So I found out about this program called Meshroom, and let's see here. Where's that page? Here it is. So there's a site called All3DP, and so I did a Google search, and they popped up. And it says 16 best photogrammetry software tools in 2019. 6 are free. And I kind of just went down the list and saw what they were talking about. And there's actually a ton of programs, like a real ton of them. I did try one other one besides Meshroom, and it didn't work very well at all. It was the 3DF Zephyr program, and I found that it just didn't work great. I didn't buy it. There's actually, is it the 3D? I think it was this one. But there's a free trial version of that you can try out. And Meshroom turned out to be the best one I've used so far. But I do want to try some others. And so what it is essentially is software, like I say, that what you do is you take lots of pictures, And so this is a Noid puppet that I own, and this is an original puppet from Wolverton Studios, and this is one of the puppets I'd like to preserve digitally. And you can see here, I guess I've got that loaded already. So you can see this is one picture of the Noid. And so I did an experiment before I actually did this. I tried using a gray neutral background and found out that the gray neutral background is about the worst thing you can use. And so you can see that what I did is I just rotated him on a lazy Susan. And so also the entire puppet is not in the shot. I was trying different techniques here. This is actually like the second or third try at trying photogrammetry. And I heard that you can overlap photos. So like I did here, he jumps down and I can see the tip of his ears. And I just spun him around and took lots of pictures. And you want to have different angles. So what I did is I have like a lower angle here. There's a mid angle and an upper angle. And so, I tried like sticking him on a box and then taking pictures of him all the way around the box in a room. And then the software ended up trying to reproduce the entire room. And so I heard that you could do it this way, which makes the character or object you're scanning easier to reproduce because there's less for the software to compute. And here you can see there's some really low angles as well. And so the software interpolates all these things. And what it does, and I'll show you guys. So the first one came out like this, and I'll load this up for you all so you can see. And the result is really horrible. So he comes out upside down, but you can see that he is there. You can see there's 3 dimensions to him. Everything is accurate in terms of where everything is aligned. It looks right, but we have all this gray stuff everywhere, which is horrible. And so this is not really a good way to preserve something 3-dimensionally. As you can see that there's just like the gray background, somehow the fact that there's a color to it, I figured it would work even though it's got it's smooth, it was lit okay. So why didn't it work? I don't really know, but I tried the white and this is the way it comes out here. I'll show you that as well. So with the white background on a lazy Susan, once it loads up, a much better result. Now it's still upside down, but you can see the back of him actually came out much better than the last one. You can actually see the brass tube. You can see where the set screws were. But it's not perfect, of course. You can see the lead wire here. So this is really not so great, but it's also not horrible as well. And I'm not very familiar with the software yet, but there are different ways to remove, to get rid of a lot of these jaggy things here, just like floating elements. And you do that in Mushroom by clicking on these different nodes that they actually set up for you. So actually when you load it up, everything is already set up to work as is. But you can also click on these things like depth map, filter, and the meshing, as well as, what is this one called here? So we got a mesh filter, and this thing here allows you to check some things such as keep only the largest mesh. So these are things that, I haven't really experimented with any of that yet, but the cool part about it is that, this can be refined. So once you've got it here, and he's dimensionally in one piece, So let me show you guys what it looks like without the texture over it. And you can see that it's really, it's not such a great way to go, but it does work. So let's see, the 26th, I think this one is, yeah, okay. So this will show you what the mesh looks like before it's cleaned up. And so you can see that all these little points are what, each point itself is what the software thought was a dimensional, let's see here. So what's going on, Omar? So sad. Why are you sad? So Hack My Control System says, artifacts aside, it looks like a matrix effect if you can import into Premiere or After Effects. Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? Or like he's breaking through some kind of a portal or something. But look at the way all these jaggies are on here, all these little vertices everywhere. It almost looks like he's hairy. So this is not something that is super accurate, and that's really disappointing. But the good news is if you want to, you can import this into ZBrush. And so ZBrush is a program that you can use to look at a mesh and inspect it and smooth it out. And here you can see that I've actually removed all those stray vertices everywhere and geometry, which is just not needed. And it's not perfect, and I do plan on reshooting all the different photos and trying this again with a better lighting system or setup, and just to see how smooth can I get it to be and accurate at the same time. But it's not bad. Like I was thinking, this is pretty good for just something that's for free, but it would be really nice if we could get this to be really super accurate in some way. So that's going to be my goal, and I do try to want to try to preserve the Noid in that way, and that also allows me to share the files with everybody out there as well. So you could actually once I do perfect this, it is possible to download it and to 3D print your own Noid and then maybe paint them up. So these are things that you can do theoretically with anything. So there's other applications for photogrammetry, not just for preserving puppets, but there's once the technology becomes even better, and there are 3D scanners which I guess are supposed to take better images and more precise images because of the way that it's set up. And they usually have like an automatic turntable, and it will be exactly at 15 degrees each turn and so forth. But those are kind of super expensive, and I'm not really sure if that's going to be worth the money for just preserving a few puppets that I have. But it's kind of cool that you could use different materials and kind of see things. Let's see here. Material, how it might look 3D printed. So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Have you ever considered preserving puppets this way? It's kind of a new technology. I mean, most of you guys maybe haven't heard of it, but I always thought it was kind of cool. Yeah, but it does kind of look like the Matrix when you're right, like when you first convert everything into 3D, it looks really bizarre. But some people are able to do this with really super precise results, and there's so many different programs, and some of them are expensive as heck. So I don't know if maybe these more expensive programs can take more precise calculations and make things more accurate. I'd really love to try this with something else other than clay. One of the reasons why this particular project with the Noid, the reason why it's not coming out is I don't have a polarizing filter on my camera. And one of the things I understand that is the death knell of trying to do this are anything that has shine to it, such as the the glare on the clay. And as I was spinning the Noid around, all of this shiny stuff here on his head, when you run it through the program, what you do is you drop all your pictures in here, and when you start the process, it will tell you if a photo is usable or not. And if it's not, it puts a little red dot on it. And I noticed that the back of the head was getting, it wasn't utilizing the images. And then I learned that you need a polarizing filter on your camera in order to, get rid of all the shine and glare off things, because it throws off the way that the software calculates. What it does is it compares one image to the next. So it will say, oh, here's a spot. It's like a white spot right here, and it's going to look for that exact white spot and that exact shape, but slightly different in the next photo. But the next photo, that dot is completely gone, and then all the lighter spots are like to the right. So as he turns, it's completely different. So I think I spent $10 at Amazon.com to order the filter. So I'm gonna see if that will help. And I'm gonna reshoot him and see, maybe that will make a difference in the accuracy. That could also have been the reason why, because where all this shiny stuff is, maybe that's causing that sort of hairy texture on the surface. I don't really know. In fact, I could probably look at these and ascertain if that's the case, because if the shine is the reason, then for sure the non-shiny parts won't have that, and that would be on the like this lead wire. So let's see. And so Omar says, I was thinking about using something familiar to use a pose model to use it as a puppet in a 3D environment. So what you're saying is, let's see here. So I do believe there are less jaggies on the lead wire, which is not shiny at all, as compared to the shinier parts, which do seem to have a lot of these just stray vertices everywhere, just jutting out. So yeah, I think there is something to that. So Omar, I'm trying to understand what you mean exactly. So I was thinking about using something maybe similar, or similar to use a pose model to use it as a puppet in a 3D environment. You could, so I know that Phil Tippett had used this particular process to scan in foam latex puppets and animate them for that the game that uses augmented reality. If you guys ever, I don't know if you guys remember that show where we talked about that, and we downloaded the program on our phone, and you could, sort of, you get like a deck of cards, and each card loads up a different stop motion puppet that's been scanned, and then you can turn the card, and then the puppet moves, and it looks pretty cool. This is the same exact kind of technology. So Hack says, I think the Smithsonian should have a grant to preserve art. Think Harry's King Kong. Yeah, so I also saw a video on how ISIS, when they were at the peak of their power, of course they were going through like Iran and Afghanistan and thereabouts, pretty much in that general area, destroying everything. And one of the things they were destroying was any kind of Buddhist statues or any of their heritage, right? I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. Like thousands of year old sculptures were being destroyed. And so what a lot of students were doing was they were going around and they were photographing the statues using photogrammetry to preserve those as well, which is a really cool thing. And you could, I'm not sure if the Smithsonian was involved in that or not, but I do know that there was a movement to do that in order to sort of rebel against ISIS. This is going back, of course, a few years. So preserving art this way is something that the cool thing about it is you can share it, you can look at it on a flat screen, you can look at it in virtual reality, you can scale it up, scale it down. It's really flexible in that way, and of course, since it's so easy to share, it's really hard to destroy, and so preserving things digitally is just kind of just a nice thing, really is. So Omar says, do you remember the puppets of Jurassic Park? But instead of using the electronics, you could use image processing like the photogrammetry. Absolutely, yeah, that's absolutely. And that would be a cool thing if they could have scanned in the original puppets in some way to do that. Although I don't know if Steven Spielberg would have liked that, and I don't know. Maybe the animators would rather animate the puppet. Hard to say. There's people that like it both ways. But yeah, so let's see here. So really, that's all I can think of to talk about with regards to photogrammetry. It's a new technology. I mean, there's different ways I was thinking you can use this in stop motion, but unfortunately, because the quality is not so great, I don't know if this is possible. But I was thinking, for somebody to hand sculpt something and then have it materialized in another part of the world on a production, this would be so cool. It would be like faxing your own sculpture if you sculpt it and then photograph it and then have the photogrammetry software, turn it into the 3D object. All right, hold on, everybody. I guess he realized I was doing a live show. But then materializing, your sculpture somewhere else by 3D printing, some sort of 3D printing process, and then molding it, far away, and turning it into, let's say, a silicone puppet. So, I mean, there's a lot of just, various uses you could think of that this would be great for. Maybe only for the rigs, just like when they did Jurassic Park. Yeah, so Jurassic Park, yeah, I don't know. It's so complicated the way that they did things back then. They had that digital dinosaur input device, if you recall, they called it, the DIDs. And so Thomas Saint Amand, he took all these little components and put them together with sensors on them. So the stop motion armature would actually sense when it was being bent. And I don't know what kind of, maybe they were some sort of like a knob of some kind. I'm not really sure exactly how they did that. But the sensors would be, hooked up to a wire and then plugged into the computer, and it would know everything, instantly. And that's, they were transitioning from stop motion to digital at that time, and I think that was really the low point of Phil Tippett's life, because he was so in love with the process of stop motion and using your hands, and it was a real disappointment for him, So I don't know if that's something that I would much rather myself also, use this for making a stop motion puppet that you can animate by hand personally. But for 3D animators, of course, this would be ideal. Like you could take this particular Noid puppet, and if it was perfectly cleaned up, it could be animated in CG. But yeah, I don't think that's going to ever happen with this one. This one is in really bad shape. So I definitely had to improve the process anyway for preserving him, which is something I definitely want to do. I totally want to, just get it to be where I can take this and put it on the internet, and you can download it. You could, load it up in VR and check it out like you're holding it in your hands. Because like when I went to Wolverton Studios and I saw them, saw the Frog Prince project, and seeing everything in front of me and being able to touch the puppets and hold them, and seeing it in 3 dimensions is so much better than seeing it just on a 2-dimensional screen like you guys are watching now. Actually seeing the puppets before you gives you this sort of sense of like, there's distance between these 2 parts, but it's not just side to side and up and down, it's forward and backwards. So it's got actual 3 dimensions to it. And you can't really appreciate it on a 2D screen as well as it looks. 3D really just, it gives you a different sort of feel to the puppets. Like they actually come to life in a way when you see it before you. It's such a weird experience, or at least it was for me. Really inspiring to, and also to think that at the time people were kind of sculpting characters by hand, and in doing so, it was like they were sort of bringing something like a piece of clay to life. It just looked alive, really. I mean, it was so neat to see. So Hack My Control System says, I love the idea of you having a 3D printing repository where others can upload and share too. Yeah. I mean, imagine you could just share a stop motion puppet digitally and then, animate it by hand. I mean, it's just so cool. Like this Domino's Pizza Noid here, if I were to get a really good scan with using photogrammetry, I could just, take off the body and, make the head really perfect, and then share it, and it can be 3D printed, and then you can make a mold of it, and you can pour clay into the mold, and actually have, something that is, you can actually take your sculpting tools and reposition the mouth and the tongue and the eyes and the ears and everything like that, and just have fun. It'd be so cool to do that, and that's where the technology's headed. So I really just kind of love it in a way. So I know a lot of people are not into digital stuff, but I think that there is a way to bridge the two without losing the traditional ways of doing things. Like I, for one, I have been sculpting a lot for different people lately. Different heads, full-size heads, in ZBrush, and in doing so, what I do is I 3D print them physically, and then I take clay and I actually sculpt over them and clean them up and do it all by hand. And I try to keep that the tradition of doing it by hand in there, because I believe it does add something to the sculpture. And I think if everything is all digital, just like what we were talking about with what is it again? The last Leica film with Bigfoot. Anyways, I can't remember the title, but it looks so much like digital that I think it really turned people off. It's like people see it and it's like, well, why are you doing it that way? It's supposed to be stop motion, but it's completely digital looking. So it just takes away from, really takes away from the charm, you know, that stop motion actually has. All right, let's see what this does here. This might mess up my computer with the live show, but oops. All right, I think it did it actually. So this is a really low poly mesh. Let me, I don't think it worked. Did it work? Wow. It doesn't seem right. But anyways, so yeah, so ZBrush, you know, have you guys ever used ZBrush before? Missing link, yes, that's it. Missing link. Wow, I think this is not properly working. There we go. Yeah, it's amazing that the resolution on this is actually pretty high, but the mesh is just so well, anyways. But yeah, this is just a great, you know, this is a pretty good starting point for, even though this mesh and the scan was not so good of the Noid, you know, I could definitely make this into the Noid if I wanted to. You know, if I want to take it to the farthest possible amount of detail. All right. Well, anyways, let's save it as my test cleanup here. So, so Kodabop says, I can't afford ZBrush, so I dabble around with open source Blender. Blender is really awesome. You know, I was recently talking to one of my friends because he has, he's in college and he's got Maya that he can use. And with Maya, you had to pay monthly for that. It's really super expensive. But he's a student, so he gets like a, you know, a special kind of discount. Either it's a discount or it was for free. I can't remember. But he was saying that like Blender is considered Maya Lite. So like the college students are saying, like if you can't afford it, just go with that, you know, and it works pretty good. And so a lot of stuff that they're doing with Blender, from what I understand, they're actually making feature films just in Blender, which means that they're taking and they're making characters, they're animating them, and they are not only doing that, but they are like rendering different scenes, lighting, animation. It seems to all be in there, so it's pretty good considering, you know, you can't most programs you can't really do that in. I don't know why that happened there. Alright. So I'm probably just going to clean this up a bit more here. I don't really have anything else to talk about tonight because I've been super busy. But this is kind of fun. I mean, if you guys have never had the chance to sculpt in any kind of programs, you know, Blender's a good one. There's actually some applications for the phone. There's one that I tried out the other day. I went to the App Store for, you know, just to, out of curiosity to see if there was any new sculpting programs, and there are. So there's one. Let me see what it's called. Okay, so so on my phone, kind of loading it up here. It's called Sculpt Plus, and it has a lot of tools in there that are similar to ZBrush, but it was really, you know, the problem is that I tried it and it's so limiting in terms of you know, how you sculpt. Like, you gotta use your finger, and so every time you want to like push something around or add details, your finger is over the screen covering the object, and since that's the case, you can't really tell what you're doing half the time. So I don't really find working on the phone very nice compared to using a computer screen like this. At least with this, you can kind of tell what you're doing anyway. And Randy says, don't know much about 3D animation. I have had a few different programs, but I'd open them, scream, and close them again. Too many buttons, too much to learn, plus would rather lay hands on clay. Yep. Well, that's the thing. So if you can't sculpt, so like if you cannot sculpt in a computer, but you need to have something sculpted in a computer, you can do it by hand and just use this program. It's called Mushroom, right? So if you download it and take pictures of your work, it'll actually turn it into an object for you. So it's kind of a neat thing, really. I mean, personally, I would like to. I would love to be able to like use it and reproduce stuff for. Like you make a prop and you want to scale it up. So let's say you have like a forced perspective shot of some sort, and then you see if I can get rid of this here. There's some weird geometry stuff going on here. I'm trying to get rid of this. Normally it works. Let's see if I can do it this way. I don't think that's going to work. But if ever you had to, make something that's large and then shrink it down. So, like for example, let's say this noid here is 7 inches tall, but we wanted to make a bunch of half-scale noids. It would be possible to shrink it down and 3D print them smaller. And if it were a puppet that we were going to animate that was that small, we could print it out that small and then cut it up and put wires in the joints, and it would be exactly dimensionally accurate. Or do like what Bruce Bickford always used to do, where he would take a large character and then resculpt it slightly smaller and then slightly smaller again and slightly smaller again, until the character shrunk down really tiny. That is definitely something that's possible to do with this process. Yeah, this is really bad. I don't know what's going on here. I'm trying to just destroy this geometry. Alright, I know what to do. Alright, well anyways. I don't know how I'm going to get rid of that. So, Hack says, off topic, but I just did my first stop motion micro short and found Digital Anarchy's flicker-free plugin to be simply amazing. Oh, that's cool. As was your training, given I never touched clay before. Yeah, awesome. Any other plugins I should look at? Well, definitely Revision Effects Motion Blur is probably the one of the cooler ones. So you can add motion blur if you have Premiere. You can plug it into that. I'm trying to think. Any good plugins? Yeah, the flicker removal one is good. The motion blur one is good. But really it depends on what you're after, what your taste is. Like if you're looking for some cinematic look to your film, there's tons of filters out there for that. But yeah, it just depends on what you're trying to do. But I'm trying to think if there's anything specific to stop motion other than just like the look of a film. can't really think of any that would be really super helpful. I mean, one of my friends, he used to use so he had a Canon Rebel TI, I think. So it's like the Canon EOS 60D. It's like sort of like mine, but it's less expensive, and I think that I'm trying to think what the difference actually is between that and mine. But it's very similar. But there's actually a lot of stuff you can download and install right into your camera itself and your DSLR cameras. And so you have your raw file format, and what these things do is you can install them on there, and they'll convert your photos instantly into a very cinematic look. But I'd rather, I mean, even saying that, like I'd rather try and do that in the software like Sony Vegas or Premiere, and just download the filter and do it that way, because you'd have more control. So I can't really say that would be like a huge benefit, but there are a lot of different things out there. So Codebop is saying, where do you download Meshroom? I just went to their site and I can't find the download. Okay. Let me close it. So Meshroom is okay. So all three. Let me see here. We go down here. Yeah, let's go. Let's just look it up. So if I click on Meshroom, and then right down here under the video, there's a so it's at github.io/#Meshroom. I don't know if you can see that on the screen or not. But if you look at it, there's this Meshroom link at the top. And you scroll down, and it should be right here. So there's Meshroom 2019 64-bit Windows, and there's also Linux. And this is, I think, like the actual maybe open source files. Not really too sure. But you click that, and it should just come up with the save file or open. That's how it is for me anyway on my computer. It might be different for you a little bit. So Hackish says, thank you. I bought a cheapish Canon T6i with Dragon Frame to help, but that was all I bought. Oh, okay. Oh, well, you're going to need some editing software for sure. There's tons of editing programs out there. There's some really, great free ones. So if you go to, let me do something real quick. I'll just close my screen for an instant, and then I'll be right back here. It's going to open up my webpage. You guys probably wonder why I hide my screen when I do this. It's because I have all my passwords on my screen for that instant. Okay, so if you need editing software, if you go to our links section on our page, so either animateclay.com or stopmotionmagic.com, click on links, and we got a section for editing programs. And I personally use Sony Vegas, but we do list a bunch of free ones. And let's see, where's that one? Oh, I think it's this. No, that's not it. Is it this one? I think it might be this one, which is supposed to be pretty good. No, that's not it at all. Maybe I can't. Actually, I'm not sure if I have it here. I'm probably gonna need to go through this and update it. But yeah, if you type in like free editing programs, there's a YouTube video that came out. Where is it? Is it 2P? No. Well, shoot. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to update that. But Sony Vegas is my favorite personally. It's not expensive. It's pretty cheap compared to like Adobe Photoshop and Premiere and their whole suite, which you had to pay a monthly fee for that stuff now, which is really bad. So, but if you've already got that, of course, keep using it. But Sony Vegas and what else is good? What else is good? I'm trying to think. I mean, everybody has their personal preferences. But so you need to upload your newbie work to the forum. I have a ton of respect for all you animation artists after doing the film and mapping the mouths frame by frame. So let me ask you this, Hack Control. So how are you breaking down your lip sync? Are you just using Dragon Frame to scrub the audio? Are you loading the audio directly into Dragon Frame? Because that's what a lot of people do, but there are some programs out there. So Lip Sync Pro is one program where if you have not had a way to break your lip sync down, this here is a really good program, and it's pretty inexpensive as well. I use this sometimes. I also use Dragon Frame where I scrub the audio. But if you want to have exposure sheets, this is one of the best ways to go. There was another program called was it called Magpie, but they don't support that anymore, and it was actually pretty good. Okay. Well, no. I mean, everybody starts out the same way. We don't know what we're doing until we jump in and learn it. So, yeah, don't beat yourself up. This stuff can get really complicated. There's so many programs out there, and if you just think of the number of ways you can make a puppet, it's almost infinite, right? So you can't know it all until you try things out. Same with the software. So in Premiere, you're using pictures of mouths as overlays. Okay, so you're like using like a cutout type of thing. Got ya. Yeah. So you could use Premiere. If you have that, that's one of the best ones you can use. I'm guessing you probably have either an older version or you've got the monthly the plan there, but that's one of the greatest ways to go for sure. And Premiere, it's not that hard to learn either. Like, surprisingly, I used that a long time ago, and they made it pretty easy. So yeah, wow, I don't know what else to talk about tonight. I'm gonna save this, and maybe we'll probably just wrap things up. It has almost been an hour. But hopefully you guys learned a little bit about photogrammetry, and maybe you can take an interest in that and utilize that in some way. And as the technology progresses, I think this is something that as physical artists we can use as a way to literally transport our work somewhere else in the world. You scan it, send it someplace, it's rematerialized somewhere else. It's really futuristic. But I think could benefit stop motion in a lot of ways, and anybody who likes to make props and or anything like that. I mean, even like just think about like flying rigs and stuff. If you can scan your flying rig, and then someone else can like duplicate it somewhere in maybe in Australia or New Zealand. They're working on a stop motion project. That would be so cool. Especially with 3D printers now are starting to utilize like metallic powders, so you can make actual steel parts, dimensionally accurate and maybe not so smooth, but possibly good enough to use for armature making. And plastic is being used, so you can make replacement parts or armature parts, or structural elements to when you're set building, like brackets and things. So there's just a lot of uses for this stuff. And Randy says, love Premiere, have always used it and nothing else. Ah, okay. So you should try Sony Vegas, Randy. Of course, if you don't have to, though, there's no need, but... And so Hack says, F1 uses 3D printers to make replacement race car parts at their track. Yeah. It's really neat, isn't it? All right. Well, anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by this week. I'm going to wrap up the show. If you guys are interested, now make sure you get your, let's see here. So feedback week is going to be July 3rd. So that's 1 week from today. If you guys have any, designs or puppets, pictures, or, set pictures or props, or, animation tests or anything like that you want to sort of talk about, we will do that next week during our live show. So make sure you post it in our feedback week forums. All right, we'll catch you guys all next week. See you later.